Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. Big drama continuing in the VCT yesterday with the North American champions of the game changer scene once again being confirmed. N4RRATE now of Sentinels has given his perspective on the situation over there. The fact that Fluorescent, could she theoretically compete if she came over to the VCT or even to Challengers, and what changes might need to be made if she wants to take a next step forward. N4RRATE being very open and honest and blunt with his assessment here that effectively she's smurfing right now in game changers, but she could potentially have an opportunity if the time calls if she went over to the VCT. But N4RRATE is not convinced the gameplay is quite well rounded enough to make that happen as of yet. Very interested to hear your thoughts in the comment section below as ever. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I don't know who this is in the backgrounds. I cannot possibly guess who it's going to be. Is it Safe? Is it CNEDs? Is it Aspas? I don't really know. Okay, Durka's joining Vitality. We all know it. They're not trying to make a secret of it at this point. This I thought was kind of funny, just speaking of people trying to find teams. This guy Calamity says, looking for a team, currently Radiant, Duelist, Sentinel, open schedule, coachable vocal. I love tweets on this. I find them so entertaining. Premiere experience. And says likes and retweets appreciated. Now, to be fair, Shazam gave him some more exposure than he might have otherwise got because he said this, forgot to mention you sit in people's viewer list, as in, we know that Shazam is not the biggest fan of a stream sniper, right? And that's what he's up to here. Forgot to mention you sit in people's viewer list. Do you not have any shame, he says. I left your stream on by accident. I'm a big fan, he says. And then he says, it would be almost believable if your first excuse wasn't. It could be a different Calamity. So apparently when Shazam has confronted him about this before, Calamity said, oh no, it wasn't me. It was some other guy called Calamity. But now he says, oh, my bad. I left it on by accident. So I'm not sure the storyline quite aligns there. But I thought this is pretty funny regardless. This is another roster. I will say I'm semi-confused at what BBL Esports are cooking up right here. You know, the Jampy pickup, of course, I kind of like. It's nice to see him get an opportunity elsewhere, of course, away from Team Liquid. But despite the fact that there's a Turkish organization and with all the Turkish talent out there in Valorant, you might well expect them to form a pretty, you know, at least majority Turkish roster. That's not what they're going to do. Sociable's coming in and Chiwa's coming in as well. Russian player, I believe, who played formerly for Ascend, I think. So he's going to come in as well and kind of round out their roster. So definitely an interesting set of decisions in BBL if this is exactly what they end up doing. Unfortunately, for some players in certain regions, it's simply nowhere near as easy, right? So Sultan, who very talented player from Kazakhstan, and certain regions, especially with the war ongoing in that part of the world, it becomes very challenging, like servers, right? So you're trying to play on a Russian server, well, the Russian server doesn't exist, right? That's kind of the issue here. But the likes of Hobbit, Counter-Strike Legends, he's a Kazakhstani player from that region, and just Sultan kind of explains why it's so difficult to get on a pro league team from Kazakhstan. And you know, I'm sure Riot has to look at this and think about it, but it's just so difficult to come up with a good solution, right? So as he says, the ping from where he lives, or at least from the most populated city, is 100 to 120 in Frankfurt, 120 to Stockholm, and you know, there's no servers over there close to the country, so it's difficult to succeed in matchmaking. There's only a couple of players who at this ping level have been able to achieve this elo rate, and you know, basically on that type of ping, unless you're a chess player, then it's obviously a big problem, right? And obviously maybe one of the reasons why chess is so big in many of those CIS countries. And as he says, technically it's an EMEA country, right? But we can't play any league consisting of 5 Kazakhs. The sanctions applied against Belarus and Russia for some reason were applied against Kazakhstan too, although our country does not take any action in this military conflict, and the head of our state has often spoke out clearly against it. There's also a problem, he goes on to say, and I'll bring up the second part of the tweet here, to people want to play with us because of our ping. Organizations don't give us a chance because our passport is weak. Our region country is not represented by any organization that could give players any chance from their region. To achieve any success from the region, you've got to basically just fly to another country where the ping is low and play from there. And you know, there's a couple of players, Dostan and himself, that have kind of made it work, that have got the chance to play in the South Asian League. But he says that for the majority of players in that region, it's basically impossible. And he's hoping that at some point, an opportunity where, you know, Riot maybe support the Central Asian region slightly more would be nice. So it's just tough, isn't it? Because you can't, if you're Riot, it's tough to support every single region on Earth the way that it likes to be. And unfortunately, life isn't fair all the time. And these guys are getting very much hard done by. I hope there's some sort of solution. But as he says, just give us an opportunity to be part of the region where we are given a chance, please. and right now that's not the case. But this did gain some serious traction over the last day or so, so hopefully it does go one step further than that, and Riot and their decision makers start to take notice to what they could potentially do about this. There's also a bit of drama I saw here as well in Premier. So this is for Challengers qualifications, and Bob was on this roster, and Bob's an interesting player too, because the move from competing in Game Changers to over to trying to make it work in Challengers, and we've heard other players in GC talk about that before, trying to make their transition. You know, Floor could do the same thing. We'll get into that in a second. But yeah, effectively, one of their players got disconnected, and it said cheater detected, which is not true. But because of this, the game was over, and the hard work is gone. So, you know, they're not cheating, but the cheats detection misidentified something because of a disconnect, and they also lost their Premier game, and therefore its chance is over to get through the challenges. So, you know, absolute nightmare, really. We'll get onto that GC stuff in a second. First of all, T1 did close out that grand finals against Zeta. They won the bind 13-3 in the end. They dominated it. Itsu went 23-4 on the Gecko. I'll just say that again, 23-4, 100% cast, 2.27 rating. As the series went on, T1 looked better and better. So, as I said, this is a team that massively excites me for the new season. I'm not surprised they came through and they won this tournament despite a relatively slow start. And that puts them in this position, right? So currently there's the Turkey qualifier that is needing to be concluded in the coming days. The APAC play-ins are now done. Of course, the NA play-ins we saw at the end of last month. And then we have the EMEA LCQ in a couple of days' time before we then get to the international play-ins and the main event in November. So yeah, these are the teams that are going to be there. Heretics, Fnatic, Carmine Corp, Focus, Cloud9, and now T1 guaranteed locked in for the Red Bull Homegrounds that's going to be happening in Berlin in, well, only a few weeks' time at this point. So definitely exciting to see what T1 get up to. But the other interesting tournament that concluded yesterday was SR versus FlyQuest Red. So this was the grand final of Game Changers, and I mean, look, you already know who's going to win. You already know who's going to be the best player in the lobby here. So it doesn't make the scene. And FlyQuest Red put up a fight game one. Fair enough, 13-10. But after that, it was increasingly dominant. And there was just no way that SR weren't going to win this series. Floor goes 24-12 on the game 2. And then, you know, okay, game 3 on the Reigner, 14-10. But this was 13-2. Just, you know, it was a team diff at the end of the day. But arguably, again, the best player in the lobby was Fluorescent. And Noya actually had a great series here as well. But it was, you know, GG. FlyQuest Red tried, but they failed, and SR are going to be, you know, again, the favourites going into the Game Changers World Championship soon, and of course, certainly the favourites from the North American region. But there was a bit of drama on this, just because of the fact that Floor is the best player in Game Changers by quite some way. I mean, have a look at the numbers here. It's just bonkers. Like overall rating, KD, stuff like this. And, you know, the argument is that she's kind of just like smurfing in Game Changers, and whether she could consider trying to move over to Challengers or make it into the VCT. Now, I understand why Floor doesn't want to do that, or maybe isn't considering it, because, you know, you can win, you can collect a paycheck by winning Game Changers all the time, being the best player, why not? But in the rates perspective, is like, if, you know, she wants to be considered to get onto a VCT team and try and take the next step, gotta compete against some better players, because, you know, it's pretty blunt from N4RRATE, but as he says, like, GC is not at the level, and Floor can effectively get away with making poor decisions because she's got more mechanical skill than the other players she's playing against.
Before you go VCT? Maybe. She's good mechanically, but she needs to, like, play against better players. Or, like, prove it, at least. I wouldn't say, I feel like she's good enough, because, like, obviously, like, I think she has, like, mechanical talent, right? But I think most people, like, would say, like, she would need to prove it against, like, stronger teams. Because, like, GC is just weak. She's really good. I would definitely trial her. I think her mechanics are just, like, different. I think she does just do, like, stupid shit, though. Like, legitimately, just, like, dumb shit. Which I think, like, in a really high-level games, like, you'll just lose. Or not, you'll lose, but you won't perform as well. But the confidence is good. Like, having that much confidence is really good. Because you have that much confidence, and then you get better, like macro-wise, and, like, your gameplay, and the way you take your fights. People say the same about Challengers players. This is not true. If someone's really good in Challengers, people, like, definitely consider them. GC is just, like, worse. That's it. Like, there's no, like, there's just truth. Like, the GC scene, I think SR is pretty good, to be honest. Like, I don't think they're Challenger level. I think they're close, though. like pug teams can beat them.
So I love like the uncensored nature of this on some level. Right? It's not like anything N4RRATE says is wrong in my opinion. I think he's pretty bang on the money, but he's like very straightforward about it, isn't he? He's like, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, Floor's talented, sure, but right now she's basically smurfing against players in a highly inferior league that is significantly worse than Challenges and therefore significantly worse than the VCT. So if you want to take the next step and maybe the talent is there, got to prove it on some level against some better players. And if that's not done, then is she going to get an opportunity to climb the ranks? Possibly not. Bob's obviously trying to make that work as well. It's interesting to see how this might go. And, you know, even I think Mel even mentioned this before as well, how from Game Changers, the plan at some point, ideally, is to, you know, achieve the highest possible level of play that you can. And, you know, the players in GC know that's not where they are. But then again, if they're winning, then they're winning, right? And you can't take anything away from that. So it is an interesting question. Very much interested to your thoughts as ever in the comment section below. Just one final thing for you guys that Measurement Dent 7739 puts on the Reddit. These are the in-region, cross-region rivalries over all-time VCT. So China hasn't been around so long. But it's interesting because the Americas, they dominate the Pacific 41-26. They actually have one of the weakest records against China. Pacific dominate China 11-3, but it's 9-6, 11-8 respectively for the other regions. The interesting one though is the EMEA. They have the domination over the Pacific generally, but EMEA tend to get the better of the Americas when their teams play. Maybe part of this is like that Optic, you know, when Optic would be beating all the teams in the other regions, but they'd lose to an EMEA team like every time back in the day. That I'm sure has contributed on some level to this record. But yes, very much interested to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.